Welcome back. In this video we are going to start creating the notification functionality in our application, and therefore I can recommend to check out Cloud Messaging /Android/client to understand better how to set up a Firebase Cloud Messaging client app on Android. Even though we're not using a messaging app, but it's still useful when it comes to using notifications. So whenever you want to use that, the first thing you need to do is to add the Gradle settings or entry here. So inside build Gradle, for the app Gradle module app here, we need to add a new implementation here, which is going to be the following. So implementation com.google.firebase:/firebase -messaging :20.1.1 is the current version in my case, and we need to sync it once we added that. Even though of course the version might change, so here if you check out this documentation here, you will always find the latest version. And then you will need to edit your manifest, so you'll need to add that to your manifest, even though in our case we will need to make slight adjustments. So let's go over to the manifest file and let's add the service here inside of the application. And for some reason I didn't copy the starting service part. So let me just give you the final version directly. So here, this is how it's gonna look like. I'm gonna call this FCM My Firebase Messaging Service. Android exported is set to false, and then this is the action that we're using. So Android :name com.google.firebase.messaging_event. Okay, so now we will also need to add some meta text to our Android manifest here. And by the way, this error will disappear as soon as we create this class here, this My Firebase Messaging Service class. And we'll do that in a second. But first, let's add some meta text. And meta text, we can add them at the very top. So here, metadata should be, for example, the one that you can find here. So basically we can also just copy that and paste it to our manifest here. And then this one is optional, but let's put that one in there as well. So you can just click the copy button, and then let's add this metadata in here as well. Okay, so then you will have these three metadata texts with their information in there. And at that point, we can create the class that is still missing and why we get this error. So here, let's create this class inside a folder, which we will also create because you can see already it says here that it should be the FCM folder. Okay, so let's create a new folder or a new directory in our project here. Right click, new, package, FCM, and inside of that we want to create a new Kotlin class, which I'm gonna call Firebase Messaging Service. All right, and now let's look at the Android manifest. The error seems to disappear, even though we need to make sure that this class is inheriting from the Firebase Messaging Service. So basically everything here except the my. And let's import that as well. Now we need to add brackets here towards the end and implement our Firebase Messaging Service class. Now there are of course multiple methods that we can use here and override. So let's start with the onMessageReceived. Okay, so onMessageReceived. Here I'm gonna rename this one to remote message because I don't like the name. So here, so it's a little more consistent. Just P0 is not very useful. So when we get the message, this function will be called. So there are two types of messages. There are data messages and notification messages, and the data messages are handled here in the onMessageReceived, whether the app is in the foreground or background. Data messages are the type traditionally used with GCM, whereby GCM stands for Google Cloud Messaging. Notification messages, however, are only received here in onMessageReceived when the app is in the foreground. When the app is in the background, automatically generated notifications are displayed. When the user taps on the notification, then he's returned to the application, and messages containing both notification and data payloads are treated as notification messages. All right, the Firebase console always sends notification messages. If you want to know more, then check out the Firebase documentation for that. So the thing is, if you want to handle such a message, you can add a log entry here. So log D with the tag messages from : $remote message .from. Okay, so if you want to know where the message comes from, let's import log here. Let's import tag as well. So here is the way where we can now use or read the remote messages. Then we can also check if the remote message.data is not empty. Then we can also have another log entry. So for example, if it's not empty, we can just say something like message data payload, and then we display there remote message data. So remote message.data. Then we can check if the message contains a notification. So remote message.notification.let, and here the notification is nullable. And here we can also have another log statement. So let's copy that. Message notification body. And here we can get that by using it.body. All right, so IT is our value that is given to us. So the remote message notification. So you can see that here, this grayed out area. Alrighty, so this is the function onMessageReceived. Then we can add another new token override. So here, this one, P0, will be the token that we need to pass. So let's replace the stupid name here with token. So called if the instance ID token is updated, and this may occur if the security of the previous token had been compromised. Note that this is called when the instance ID token is initially generated, so this is where you would retrieve the token. All right, so if you get a new token, well, that's the function that would be called. And then here we can run a little log entry. So let's say we want to know about the new token. Then we would just say refresh token. And here is where we would send the registration to the server with the new token. Okay, so if we ever should create a new token, well, that's where we would then also want to send the following function. So private fun send registration. This is one that I create myself, so this is not an override here. Registration to server, and here we need to pass in the token, which is a string nullable. Okay, so in this case, well, we need to implement the functionality to send the registration to the server and so forth, but in the onNew token, that's where we would call this function. Okay, and we need to pass in the token like that. All right, then at this point, I realized that I imported the tag, but I would like to use my own tag. Okay, so I don't want to use this content values tag. I want to have my very own tag. So if you want to use your own tag, what you can do is you can, of course, create a variable which is called like that. So you can go ahead and create a companion object, which you call tag, and I'm going to call my tag my Firebase message service. So then if I do that, of course, I want to get rid of this content value tag so that I don't have any interference here. Okay, so the tag for the log should be the tag that I have here in my companion object. Okay, and then there is one last function that I want to show you in this video, but as you can see, we will really need to dig deeper into it later on. So I will create a new function here, private fun send notification, with the message body, which is of type string. So if you want to send a notification, this function should then be called. So how I'm going to do that is with an intent. I'm going to say, okay, let's create an intent where I need to pass in the context, of course. So let's import intent here real quick. Then I will pass in the activity to which this intent should be sent. So main activity. So the user should be sent to the main activity once he clicks on the notification. Class.java. And then I will add a flag to this, or add flags, which will be intent.flag activity clear top. So activity clear top, this one. As you might remember, this is how we made sure that a specific activity is set to a specific position inside of the stack. So for example, if we have two activities and we want to put one at the top, then we would give it this intent here. Okay. And then as the notification is something that is sent to the user and he might be in another application, and we cannot just open an intent from the other application to our application, we need to use a pending intent. So here what we can do is we can say pending intent, which should be pending intent dot get activity, and let's import pending intent therefore. So here get activity, and here the singular, we need to pass in the context, which is going to be this, then the request code and the intent, and finally the flags. And here I'm going to use pending intent dot flag one shot. And this flag says that this activity should, or this intent should only be usable once. All right. And by the way, if you want to know more about pending intents, you can check out here. There's a good description. So basically the idea is that you should, or by giving a pending intent to another application, you are granting it the right to perform the operation you have specified as if the other application was yourself with the same permissions and identity. So you should be careful about how you build your pending application or pending intents. And the pending intent itself is simply a reference to a token maintained by the system describing the original data used to retrieve it. Okay, so we are using this pending intent, and then we will create a channel ID for which I'm going to create a string. So let me import R here, and let's create this string. So let's go over to our strings here, resources, values, strings, and let's create this new string here. All right, then we can come back to our channel ID. So now we have this channel ID and we gave it a name, right? So it's this default notification channel name, whatever we entered here, which is projet manage underscore notification channel ID. That's how I called it. And then now that we have the channel ID, we can add the default sound URI, which is the ringtone manager dot get default URI, which should be the notification ringtone manager dot type notification. So you can see here there are type alarm, type all, type ringtone. So the user has specified what type of notifications he wants to have. For example, for a notification such as an SMS. And that's the one that we want to use. So we don't want to use a notification that should be used for alarms only. So the user would be confused why we are using that feature. And then we can create the actual notification. So here, if we want to create a notification, we need to use the notification builder. And therefore, we can use notification compat dot builder. And now here for the builder, we need to pass in a lot of information. or we can pass in a lot of steps, so to speak, so add to the builder. So first we need to add the context and then the channel ID, which is this ID that we have created here. And then we can set an icon for this notification. So set small icon. So this is the icon that is displayed in your notification bar. So you see the little icon, and here I'm just going to use r.drawable.ic that IC notification. At least that's how I'm going to call it. So let's create it. So go to new vector asset, and here we can select the Android, this one here. So let's just use the default Android. I'm going to use this one as stat IC notification. Here you can of course play around with the color, so let's use any color. So it's a little different than the default green one. All right, so it's going to be this one here in my case. Then you can set the content title, so the title of the notification. I'm just going to say title for now. Of course, you could create a string for this, but I'm going to keep it simple as this time. Then the context text, so the text that you want to display, and I'm just going to call this one message. Then set auto cancel to true. So setting this flag will make it so the notification is automatically canceled when the user clicks it in the panel. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Then we can set the sound, and that will be the default sound URI that we just prepared. So this one up there. And then we can set the content intent. So if the user clicks on it, then it should open up our main activity. So here pending intent is using our intent, which then uses our main activity. So basically the user, when he clicks on the notification, should be sent to our application. Now we can go ahead and create a notification manager by using get system service with the context dot notification underscore service as the notification service. So here as notification manager to be precise. So notification manager. And then since Android Oreo, the notification channel is needed as well. So we can check if build.version.sdk int is greater equal build.version codes.o. So whatever the Android O version code is, we need to import build here. Let's do that. And then we can set the channel to be notification channel. So we had the channel ID, but we didn't have the channel. So now we need to pass in the channel ID, then the name. So I'm going to say channel Project Manage title, and then the notification manager importance. So here notification manager importance default. So now let's import this notification channel here class so that we can use it, and then we can go ahead and use the notification manager to create the notification channel based on our channel that we prepared. All right, and at that point we can use the notification manager to finally notify. All right, so notify here, we need to pass in the ID. I'm just going to use 0 here, and then our notification builder.build. Okay, so this is a very long function. There's a lot of stuff going on and things that we have not touched on yet, but basically this is how you can prepare a notification, and when we call this function now, it will send a notification, so to speak. All right, so this is just the build up, and in the next video we are then going to actually use this. But first we will update the token itself. Okay, so see you in the next video.